real estate investing, it doesn't matter if you're going to do wholesaling or if you're going to flip houses or you're going to do giant multi-million dollar, high density, apartment complexes like you're doing, like you mentioned, right?
Yep.
Before we got on the show. Your business is not real estate, right? Our business, guys, is not real estate. It's marketing.
Service. Yeah.
It's marketing.
Yeah.
You can't do any deals unless you have leads, unless you have deeply discounted properties. But if you're getting properties at 40, 50, 60 cents on the dollar, you kind of have to be a complete dummy to lose money at that point.
Yeah. Yep.
It doesn't matter what your strategy is.
Yeah.
You're going to make money. And so if you can have a system to find and consistently find deeply discounted properties, you're going to make money, right? And what I didn't have with Tom Kroll is a really good marketing system. He's like, oh, go find tax delinquent lists. Go find, you can buy these lists and market to them, evictions, and, you can get some of these public records and reach out and see if they want to sell. Plus, real estate, honestly, is the best asset to hold your wealth because of all the tax benefits.
Yeah.
Right. The ability to sell it and turn it into another investment without having to pay taxes on the gains. Like that's just one of the perks. There's so many. And so for me, when I was doing all my research on, how to hold my wealth, how to grow wealth, real estate was the key, but how to get into it was the barrier. And wholesaling was that sledgehammer that was going to break down all the walls. Yeah. Elk steak and potatoes.
So you guys were outdoorsy, back then too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. My, I don't like saying redneck because that can have a negative, a negative impression to some people, but, I grew up in Utah in the Rocky Mountains, and, my family, big time archery hunters. And, that was life. I was raised to work hard. We always had like a side business. I didn't grow up with money at all. So I grew up from the time I was a little boy mowing lawns with my family. When I was 15, I was running a whole crew and, maintaining a whole bunch of properties. And, we spent a ton of time in the mountains. I mean, in fact, my mom was pregnant with me when she shot her first big game animal with a bow and arrow.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was kind of how I was raised, right? I was raised with a little backpack on me, and they'd hike me clear up in these crazy mountains around bears and mountain lions. I remember my first bear encounter. I couldn't have been more than 6.
Yeah.
And there was a mom with cubs, and they ran out in the trail, and the mom stood up and like woofed at us, and the little bears ran up the trees, and we backed up real slow. And I thought I was going to get eaten for sure.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I was raised, man. So we ate a lot of wild venison, and we had a garden growing up, and it was very much a, blue collar, work your butt off, play as much as you can. I'm so grateful for that experience and being raised the way I was.
Yeah,
for sure.
It sounds beautiful. It sounds amazing.
Incredible.
What did your parents do? Were they kind of always doing like the same types of business? Like,
my dad's the opposite of me.
Okay.
So my dad is like, he's major OCD. He wants to do the same thing, very structured, like wants to have control over everything. So he started a job when he was 19. He's been with the same company his entire life. He's now 62 years old and he's still there.
Wow.
Same company. The company sold 3 times and he has been at the same building for all that time.
Incredible.
So my dad's, started at 19 sweeping floors basically for this company, did some classes, by trade became an engineer, eventually project manager, is in charge of a big account doing manufacturing stuff for a lot of the Boeing airplane parts and that kind of stuff. Yep. So that's what he's always done. And then, when I was teenager and to get by, they had 5 kids. And so to get by and to pay for everything, we also had a lawn mowing business that we used all that money to play. That was our play money as a family. Yeah. So we all worked together. I have 2 older brothers and an older sister, and we all worked. I mean, that was a requirement. We all played basketball. We had some extracurricular activities, but ultimately, like we worked before school, after school, like we worked the weekends that we weren't playing. I remember I was mowing lawns and rainstorms and lightning storms because we were trying to get everything done to go play. And then my mom, when I was younger, she was waiting tables. That's what she did at nights and when she could. And it was cool because my mom was gone a lot in the evening, so it forced, my dad wouldn't cook. He said, I will not cook. So it forced me and my sister and some of our other siblings to learn to cook. We all got a lot of different skills. We had to clean, we had to do laundry. We worked as a family to get everything done. So she did that. And then when I was about 11, she accidentally had my younger brother. I tell him all the time he's an accident. But during that time, she was doing nursing school with a newborn.
Oh, wow.
and still working as well. And she was working graveyards, kind of like at a front desk, which was awesome for her because she could study. I mean, she's a hardworking, dedicated lady. I mean, this lady's crazy. She's 60 years old and she's still climbing these mountains and climbing up trees. She shot a big black bear with her bow and arrow a year ago, and I showed up to their camp, to say hi to him because I was up in Idaho on a deer hunt. And they're like, oh, we shot a bear. We need your help, Zach. They're 60. They can't
lug that out. Yeah.
They can't take care of it anymore. Like they were so glad you're here. I was like, you guys are nutcases, but that was kind of. Yeah, that's how I was raised, and she got her nursing degree while she had a newborn and working, and was able to go through that. And then she became a flight nurse for the University of Utah, well-renowned hospital here in Utah. And they started doing much better financially, got a rental. But by then I was kind of on my own, when I was 16 years old, my dad said, now you're a man, you pay for everything. He didn't make me pay for food, housing, but everything else, my driver's, my driver's license, insurance. If I wanted to play basketball, I paid for it. If I wanted to have outdoor activities, fishing poles, fishing lures, bow and arrow, whatever I wanted, I had to pay for. They always had a nice Christmas for us, and that was really fun. But ultimately, I had lots of different jobs. I didn't want to work for the family business at that point. So when I was 15, I started framing houses and doing finished carpentry, and I did everything. I made handcrafted cheese, worked in a wood mill,
Wow.
Did lots of different things. I went to Nova Scotia, Canada, my junior year summer, worked 80-hour work weeks, doing landscaping and taking care of a family friend summer home. So, my whole life I was raised to work and to become a man. And the main reason for that, looking back and understanding my parents more, my dad was raised in a really bad situation. So my grandfather, David, my dad's father, was an alcoholic and a gambler, literally had 2 teeth, very unstable situation. My dad had to ask for food from the neighbors to feed his younger siblings. So my dad wanted to change that. My dad was very strict. My dad was very hard on us, but I will be forever grateful for the work ethic and who he taught me to be. But yeah, man, that was life growing up. There was no other choice.
That's incredible. And at some point along those lines, you started your own window washing company, right?
Yeah. So, I had all these different jobs. And what happened is 16, he cut me off financially. I had to pay for my own basketball stuff, and I'm trying to do basketball and take it serious. And I realized that I was trading time for money, which was a major issue.
And that's incredible that you realized that at such an early age too. I mean, that's really, really good.
Well, that's because of my parents, right? Seriously, I look back, I'm like, oh man, most people realize this crap when they're in their mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
What am I doing? This sucks. I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So by the time I was that point, I had all these different bosses. I was raised to work, and I felt like I worked harder than almost all the bosses I ever had. And I'm like, this is stupid. If they can do it, I can do it. Right.
Yep.
So when I was 17, I wanted to start a window cleaning business. I went to Nova Scotia and worked up there for the summer, and I wanted to buy a truck and get some equipment, but my dad wouldn't co-sign a loan. He said, if you want a truck, you'll save up the cash. I'm like, gosh, dang it. So that's why I did Nova Scotia, so I could have the money to start my business. I needed a truck. I needed the window cleaning equipment. I picked window cleaning because it was something that I could figure out that I could start and afford it. So when I got home, I bought my equipment, bought my truck and everything else from working those 80-hour work weeks. And I didn't know how to bid stuff. So I called someone in the yellow pages. This is before smartphones. Smartphones came out after that. A couple of years later, as the iPhone came out. But so I called in the yellow pages, figured out how to. I was like, hey, my dad wants a bid for window cleaning. My dad was too cheap. He wouldn't pay for that crap.
That's great. Yeah.
So, but I figured out how to bid, and I kind of taught myself how to wash windows, and I got faster and faster because I knew if I could get more done with less time. And then I started hiring employees, and it kind of blew up, and a decade later, I had been on the History Channel because of it. I had millions of views on my tutorial videos that I created to train employees. It was never for, for the audience. It was for my, I never thought anybody would want to watch me wash windows. Stupid, right? But a lot of things happen. A lot of good things happen. From the outside looking in, I was way more successful than I was, right? Like I had this business, we were profitable, but I was very much paycheck to paycheck. I hated the industry that I was in. I did not like working in that industry. I did not really like the employees I was working with, right? I was not happy, and I felt like I was failing. The moment that really made me think, okay, I got to change what I'm doing was the day my son was born. He's 7 now, but he was born, and I was like, all right, I don't even know how I'm going to pay these medical bills. And all I could think about that whole day is stressing about money. And I was like, this is stupid. Like, I'm a dad now. I have to be able to do better than this.
Yeah.
And that's when everything changed. That's when I made that shift into real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. And your shift was to basically get into wholesaling, which I know that some of the guests probably know what that is, but why don't you explain, I guess even what the catalyst was? Why did you pick real estate? How did you get involved? What was that first deal like?
Yeah. So when I was working, I think I was probably 13 or so. I was mowing lawns with my dad after school and him after work. Right. And it's late, doesn't get dark till 9 in the summer, so it's super late. And it was probably like 8 o'clock, and we're picking weeds, and it's getting dusky, and so we're still out there working. And I remember looking at these giant mansions. I said to my dad, I'm like, Dad, like, why are we mowing their lawn? What do they do for work? Like, how wealthy are they? How much do you think they're millionaires? I started asking all these questions around money. My dad's like, son, I don't know. Don't ask me. Ask my rich friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So his name was Clint. I'm like, Clint's not rich. He drives a crappy truck. He's like, no, he's just cheap, son. He has a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So I asked Clint, and Clint told me to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay.
So actually, and he gave me a copy when I was 13 years old. So I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If the audience doesn't know what that book is, it teaches the concept of it talks a lot about real estate, but more than anything, it talks to you about the importance of buying assets, not liabilities, right? And taking control of your financial life, being responsible for your finances. And so my little brain started working, right? And I had a taste of doing door-to-door sales at a very young age, or about that time, doing aeration. And I was making $30 an hour versus $5 an hour when I did aeration or mowing lawns. So I really liked sales because I could make more with time, right? Even though it was uncomfortable and awkward, I got good at it.
Yeah.
And so I started like wanting to trade, at that point, like I got this entrepreneurial bug to make more with less time. And one of the things that I thought that I came up with the idea is, okay, when I'm ready to buy a house, I'm going to buy a duplex, rent one side and live in the other. And I did that, now it's termed as house hacking, and it's a very normal thing. So clear back in 2012, I was about 20 years old, and I bought my first duplex. I was living in one side and renting, and my monthly payment was like $450. It was when the banks were unloading foreclosures after 08. So I got a steal. I wish I knew what I knew now.
Exactly.
But anyways, I bought that one. I was renting the one side for $750. I was making extra money, even living for free.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to buy another one, but they wanted down payments, and I had all these obstacles to buy more rentals. I'm like, gosh, dang it. What do I do? How do I do this? So in listening to podcasts and research, I found out there's a way. If you don't, have a rich uncle, you don't have credit, you don't have down payments, there's a way to get started in real estate investing without all those things. With all those barriers, you can still get started. And it's called real estate wholesaling, which is a concept that I go out and find people that want speed and convenience for their property, right? They want a pawn shop for their house for whatever reason. They're, tired landlords, don't want to deal with it anymore. You get that property under contract, and you find an end buyer that wants to hold it as a rental or flip it. Right. And then you pass the opportunity on for a fee, right? My biggest assignment fee is $103,000. Wow. Right. I have multiple students with 6-figure assignment fees, right? Scott Dallinger did 113,000. Michaela and Aaron did 115,000. So it's common to get 6 figures, right? It's not super common. Your average fee should be about 10% of what the property's worth fixed up. So if it's worth Worth 500,000, you could make about 50 grand on
Yep.
average overall in your market, right? So your higher inflated markets, you're going to get bigger assignment fees. And
Yep.
yeah. So yeah, that's what I learned about. And, a lot of mistakes,
Sure.
a lot of mistakes trying to figure it out on my own. Huge nightmare, huge mistake, became a skeptic. Lots of things happened. And then I met a man that changed my life. I met Tom Kroll. He doesn't coach anymore. But when he did, he changed a lot of people's lives, including mine. And he gave me the steps, the outline, and he was available to me to answer questions. And in the very beginning of 2017, I joined his program. And the first 8 months of doing wholesaling, I made a little over 6 figures. I'd walked away from window cleaning and I was like, all right, this is where I'm going. And now I make over $1 million a year doing this. And now I help students make an absolute fortune doing this as well. So it's completely changed my life, dude. It is so much better than what I was doing before. There's so many perks. I mean, I could go on for days for all the benefits of this style of business versus another one.
Yeah. And so obviously to do that kind of volume, you had to have systematized that, that process pretty well, correct? I mean, are there any, I guess, were there any aha moments, realizations, maybe when, Tom came in and saw what you were doing and you were like, well, shit, I never thought of that. Why I need to do it that way. And, then that kind of was the catalyst to get things spinning. Does anything come to mind?
Oh, 100%. So the main thing that Tom taught me, the hiccup that I had. So overall, he gave me the steps, right? Building your cash buyers list, the contracts, the title company, and overall the process and how it works. But the other thing that I had a hang up on is why would anyone sell a house to me 40, 50 cents on the dollar?
Yeah.
Like, why would they do that? And if they did, I'm taking advantage of them, right? Like, so I had this like hang up, right? And that's why I hadn't really gone for it. I was very skeptic of all the coaches, but Tom's a different person. Right. And he taught me, he said, Zach, we're a pawn shop for houses. Do people know when they sell something to the pawn shop, do they know the pawn shop's going to make money? Yes, they do, but they don't care.
Yeah.
Right. Your goal is to find people and explain, hey, you could make more money if you fix it up and list it. You'll make way more. I might not be a fit for you.
Yeah.
And if they say, I don't care, I just want to be done. You say, okay, well, I can help you. I just want you to understand I'm going to make money. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Once you have those conversations and find the right people, you're actually serving and blessing and helping them. Right. And so that was a big mind shift. And then I got hungry to find more of those people. And the first time it happened to me, I was washing windows for a very, very wealthy developer. Right. His name was Stan Nielsen. And Stan had these he had 2 giant multi-million-dollar developments that he was working on, but he also had these 2 rentals he hadn't collected rents on in 4 months because a property manager bailed on him.
Okay.
So I got talking to him while I was washing his windows. He's like, yeah, I'll totally sell you my properties. I don't want to deal with them. I'll give them to you at a discount. And I was terrified. I didn't even have contracts at the time. And he wrote it out on a piece of blank white paper. And I'm trying to talk him out of it, right? Because I'm terrified. I don't know what the heck I was doing. But I ultimately made over 6 figures between those 2 properties.
Yeah.
And that was like, aha, like this dude knew 100 times more than me. He was wealthy beyond I ever imagined I would ever be. And it just proved to me that it's possible to do it in a wholesome way. And that was a big barrier for me to overcome, is like, can I make money without taking advantage of others? Because if not, I don't want it. Right. And so that was something that Tom really helped me with. And then the outline. And that first year I made 6 figures, right? The next year I made just shy of $500,000. And the real aha moment for me there was that real estate investing, it doesn't matter if you're going to do wholesaling or if you're going to flip houses or you're going to do giant multi-million-dollar, high density, apartment complexes like you're doing, like you mentioned, right? Before we got on the show. Your business is not real estate, right? Our business, guys, is not real estate. It's marketing.
Service.
It's marketing. You can't do any deals unless you have leads, unless you have deeply discounted properties. But if you're getting properties at 40, 50, 60 cents on the dollar, you kind of have to be a complete dummy to lose money at that point. It doesn't matter what your strategy is. You're going to make money. And so if you can have a system to find and consistently find deeply discounted properties, you're going to make money. Right. And what I didn't have with Tom Kroll is a really good marketing system. He's like, oh, go find tax delinquent lists, go find, you can buy these lists and market to them, evictions, and, you can get some of these public records and reach out and see if they want to sell. and it was working okay, but it was very unpredictable. It was here and there. It wasn't something that I could consistently count on and build a business around. That marketing strategy gave me. So what I started doing is I noticed that when someone had a property, they wanted speed and convenience over price.
Yeah.
It was because the property is a thorn in their side, whether they inherited the property and they got siblings suing each other and, deathbed wills and like all sorts of problems, right? And it's an emotional problem. They didn't give a crap about it, or they're tired landlords. They don't want to deal with it, or they went through a nasty divorce and the courts are forcing them to sell and they have deadlines and whatever else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
At those moments, they don't want an agent. Right. So I have to find those people. So when they have a property and that's the situation, the property is a thorn in their side. So if the property is a thorn in their side, they're not going to take care of it. They're going to let, there's going to be deferred maintenance, high grass. There's going to be code violations. There's going to be broken windows with maybe some duct tape on them or boarded up, or there's going to be peeling paint or shingles that have blown off and a tarp on the roof. Like there's going to be notice of neglect. Right. So I started noticing that with the deals I was doing. It's like, man, like I drive down the street and I'm like, I hadn't even seen the house number. And I'm like, I guarantee that's it. And I pull up, it's a house.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, like I can physically see the signs of neglect. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. Let's drive through these neighborhoods. I thought I came up with the idea, right? It's called driving for dollars. It's been around for as long as another one of those moments of me trying to figure out things the hard way. I'm an idiot, right? Don't do what I do. Learn from other intelligent people. But I was like, okay, like let's do this. Let's drive around, write down the addresses. So I started writing down the addresses, pulling up the information on county records. And I started, marketing to those lists that I was creating. And I remember I built a list of 70 people is all. It's a very small list. And I made $9,000. I'm like, wow. I was like, all right, this is real. This is going to work. So I immediately went out and started recruiting people and did like a dinner and shared what I was doing. And like all these people that wanted to learn, I started sending them out and building lists for me. And I was paying them a percentage of all the deals. And we blew up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I actually have a podcast right after this with someone else that came into my life. His name's David Lecco. He owns an app called Deal Machine.
Okay.
So Deal Machine makes driving for dollars easy.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
It makes it so you don't have to have a large team. Driving for dollars in the ancient way, like I was doing it, was only for newbies because it was so time consuming. You couldn't automate the process, right? It was to get your first deal, but not really to scale a business. But with Deal Machine, now you have an app. You open the app and it's basically like a Google Maps image, right? You're driving through these neighborhoods, identifying these houses with physical signs of neglect, and you touch the house on the Google Maps image.
Okay.
It's immediately uploading all of the information that I had to go research into an Excel spreadsheet ready to go.
Oh, that's amazing.
Phone numbers, emails, mailing addresses, the property address, the owner's name, all of that stuff. You can see how long they've owned it. You can see if it's corporate. You can see if it's absentee. Like it's all of it's beautiful in a spreadsheet ready for you to reach out to them.
Yeah. That's
so we
really cool.
Changed everything, dude. And then on top of that, I started teaching some other people. So my mentor, Tom Kroll, had me speak at an event. Long story short, I started helping a few other people. I had set a goal to make $1 million that next year after I'd done just shy of $500,000. And I read a self-help journal that said I had to give away what I wanted to receive. If I want love, I give love. If I want money, I give money.
Cool.
So I set a goal of $1 million. That meant I had to give away $1 million. So how the hell do I do something that I don't have? How do I do that? But it went in alignment with my core values. I was like, no, this is beautiful. If I could do that, that would be so fulfilling. So I started teaching people that marketing system because, teaching wholesaling, the process is not that complicated if you have a lot of leads and can make some mistakes. Right. And learn the negotiation and and learn the process. Once you do your first deal, you really understand it. So it's like, but if I can consistently give leads to people, they'll make a lot of money. I was like, I could easily 10 people put $1 million in their pockets. Right. So brought on these students, started teaching them. And the more I taught them, the more I realized how crappy my marketing system really was.
Okay.
and how many mistakes I was making. So exactly what the promise of that book was, whatever you give, you receive. So every time I taught someone something, they would ask me questions that I had never even thought about. I'm going to tell you just one mistake I was making that cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars that a student helped me find. So he said, Zach, when I send my postcards to this driving for dollars list, we have a tracking number like that's unique. So we can see how many calls we got and it'll forward to our phones or to our CRMs, right? And he's like, how do we know that we're getting our text messages? I can't get the text messages to forward to our CRM. And I'm like, oh, I've never received a text message.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no. And I realized that I had almost over a year
Yeah.
of text messages that and leads that I had never even worked.
Wow.
I was able
Wow.
to salvage a bunch of them and make over $100,000, but I know I lost well over 100.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Which
incredible.
which was painful, but it was awesome at the same time because I
Yeah.
was perfecting my system. And the more I taught, the more I learned, and the more I served my students, the more I came back to me in my own wholesaling business, and the more fulfillment that I got from it, the more that I felt like I was living a purposeful life. And it wasn't just about me making money, it was about making other people money. And I fell in love with coaching. So I'm like, shit, now I love coaching more and I love real estate. Like now I've got to automate my wholesaling business completely so I can spend all my time serving, right, and helping students. And so then it forced me to hire coaches and learn how to automate processes and put people in charge of my business and be able to just look at the finances for 2-3 hours a week and have a business that pays me well over $300,000-$400,000 a year passively.
Yeah.
And so I went through that journey and everything else at the same time. I'm helping other people do the same. And it has been the most fulfilling journey that I ever imagined that I would have, because of meeting my mentor, Tom Kroll.
No, I love it. I love it.
It's amazing.
And it's, and I mean, there are so many nuggets in there. I mean, everything from, hiring a mentor and, you mentioned your core values. If you've gone through and established what your core values are, so you can understand, this is what drives me, this is what motivates me. And, you probably use that to help attract other people, when you're
100%.
looking for people to help, in your business, you can use that to attract other people that are, like you. And that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily go through and do. They figure out, core values, we don't need that. That's, just an exercise that's not going to do anything, but it really makes a huge difference. So that's fantastic that that you've gone through and have done all of that.
I'm so glad you identified that. Most people, like you said, think it's just an exercise that it's a waste of time. It's not. One of the first filters when I look at candidates to work with me for me is the core values. So some of my core values obviously is in high integrity. We do the right thing no matter what. Another one is no excuses, right? We change ourselves to change our outcomes. Another one is, self-improvement. We're always improving ourselves to help the team overcome our challenges. Right. And so we have some of these core values. So whenever I do a preliminary like interview or prep to see if it's worth a full interview, I ask a series of questions around that. Like, what are some of the, what's your position and what training or education have you done that was not required by your job in the last 12 months? If there's no books, no nothing, it's like they're not invested into themselves. Right? That's not they're not a core value fit. If I ask them, what are some of the goals that you did not accomplish over the last 2 years and what was the reason for it? Right. And if it's just excuses, just blaming, and if they're like, well, this and this happened, I realized I made this mistake. These are some of the things that we did and that I didn't do right. But I feel like if I'd have done this different, this would have been a different outcome. It's like, okay, that's fine. You were not always going to hit all of our goals, but it's one thing to take ownership for the failure and learn than it is to blame and be a victim. Right. So yes, core values are 100% the first filter that we use to recruit people into our companies. 100%.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And you did a really interesting experiment as well. I believe you said it was down in Tampa where you went and you had a goal that you basically, publicized and you went through this whole process. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been dealing with as a mentor and a coach, there's a lot of mentors and coaches out there that are just selling information just to have another source of revenue, but they're not like actually there to make a difference and actually make their students money. Right. And so there's a lot of skeptics of mentors and coaches and gurus. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I get it. I was that person. I was 100% that person until I met Tom Kroll. And I was like, what really changed my perspective? What really made me believe? And it's like, what made me a believer was not so much who Tom Kroll was or anything else other than I saw it happen real time. I met Stan Nilsson. I was washing his windows, a very wealthy person, didn't want to deal with his properties. I made over 6 figures. It's like, if that doesn't make you a believer, nothing will.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why don't I really felt like that was a gift. I really feel like it was a gift from God, and I wanted to give that gift to others. So I was up super late one night because I was dealing with this problem. I was dealing with this problem of how do I show people that they can do it, that I'm no one different. Yes, I have a work ethic, but that's not unique to me,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
if people that have a work ethic can believe in themselves and do the hard work, they will be successful in this business. How do I show them that? Like, how do I help them believe in themselves? Because if you don't start with a massive amount of belief, you're not going to push through those barriers and those obstacles. And if you don't push through, you're not going to have success. And then you'll be like, see, I knew I couldn't do it. And you're going to spiral downwards and you're going
Yeah.
to give up.
Yeah.
Right. But it's the opposite's true. If you believe 100% you can do it and you go for it and you give 110%, you're going to get results that match your efforts.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get
Mm-hmm.
those results, you'll be like, yeah, I knew I could do it. And you're going to get more and more confidence, and you're going to continue to excel and propel forward in your journey as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, how do I give that gift? How do I give that gift of belief, of confidence that they can do it, right? That I'm no one special. So I was like, what do I do? And it was seriously like 3 a.m. And I had watched a show like 6 months before. It's called Undercover Billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched the first season. I think there was a second season. I haven't watched it. I think it's Stearns. Is it Frank Stearns, the billionaire, the first one?
I'm not sure. I don't remember. Not
Anyways,
sure.
it doesn't. You guys can look it up. I'm pretty sure his last name's Stearns. So his goal was to show us, the American people, that the American dream is alive and well,
Mm-hmm.
right? That we could have financial success regardless of where we're starting. And I loved it. I love it because I'm 100% on board with him.
Mm-hmm.
And what his challenge was to take $100 bill, a smartphone, an old beat up truck, and he was going to fly in on his private jet, change his name, change his clothes. And his goal was to build $1 million company that was evaluated by a third party in 90 days.
Wow. Okay.
So this billionaire sleeping in his truck, eating ramen noodles from the gas station, cleaning toilets, hustling his ass off to build this business. I'm like, this guy is my freaking hero. I hope I get to shake his hand one day. Yeah. Maybe he's listening to this podcast, right? Who knows? But I was like, man, that is beautiful. Like, I want to do something similar, because if I can show people like I was shown from Stan Nielsen, like this can be done, they'll have the confidence and they'll get that gift and propel them forward. So I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do anything as crazy. I'm not going to go be homeless. That's not going to happen.
and real quick, I love that you are focusing all around the confidence and building the confidence in people, because that is so important. Again, I mean, I'm sure you probably experienced it. I experienced it when I was first starting out, like afraid to cold call someone, afraid to get on the phone, afraid to talk to anyone. And now it's like, oh, that's, no big deal. Let's just go and talk to them. And just having that confidence, knowing that you can do it is just incredible. So I love that you keep referring back to confidence in this story. So I just wanted to interject that, but continue on.
Well, the thing is I didn't know what I was doing when I started being a coach, but I started as a coach with the goal of changing lives, of putting money in people's pockets, not about making money as a coach, but putting, my goal is $1 million in my students' pockets. So when that was my goal, I got really good at identifying what made people fail. And diving into what their failures were. And it was so common. The number one theme was they didn't believe, they didn't have faith, they gave up, they lost confidence, they got distracted, whatever it was. They didn't have that conviction. Right. So that was something that I wanted to overcome, not just for my audience that watches me on YouTube and my podcast and all that, but I wanted to do it for my existing students. Right. I wanted them to be like, wow, like he can do it, I can do it. So the goal for me, I was going to fly to Tampa. My family was going to be in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where my wife's from, for the first 30 days. And then they were going to fly back and be with me the last 10 days. I mean, I was making major sacrifices to not be with my 2 beautiful children, my wife, for 30 days. I was going to give it all I had. I was going to work from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed for 40 days straight. And I had done that before in my life, and I never wanted to do it again, but I was going to do it for you guys, for the people that wanted to see this content, and prepared myself, put everything else on hold. And the only thing that I still had to do while I was doing that challenge was to serve my students. My wholesaling business and everything was automated with people in place to manage and take care of it. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take $1,000. I'm going to get an Airbnb. I'm going to get a car and my smartphone. And the goal is to turn that $1,000 into 40 grand in just 40 days.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I chose $40,000 is that's the average American income, right?
Ah,
But ultimately, how much money I made was somewhat irrelevant to me.
mm-hmm.
Overall, my goal was to give the gift and at least find one motivated seller and make a big chunk of change and show the process and show what it takes. Right. That's all I prayed for.
Mm-hmm.
And day 4 of the challenge, I got extremely emotional because I feel like God answered my prayers and everything that I had asked for happened. I met a guy named Jerry, super wealthy real estate investor, just told me all of his stories of how he willed and dealed and made all of his money and how he had found all of his rentals. And he had 3 properties he didn't want to deal with. And come to find out, he was dying of cancer.
Oh, wow.
And his wife was more than capable to take care of the properties. They had a bunch of them, but there was 3 that were really far and not in the best neighborhoods. And he wanted to be at peace that she didn't have to deal with those.
Yeah.
I was like, well, Jerry, they're in really good shape. You could just list them and make more money. Like, why are you working with me? He said, I don't care. And you can see that in the video. He says, I don't care. I just want to be done.
Mm-hmm.
We built a great relationship. I even had him on my podcast after the show. I shared with him the mission that I had and how I wanted to help and inspire other people. And I was so grateful that I had met him because him and his story would live on through the content that I was creating.
Mm-hmm.
And, we cried and hugged. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience. But overall on that challenge, I blew my goals out of the water. Mm-hmm. I never imagined that I would have the success that I had. I was hoping I'd get 1 contract, honestly, and I thought my average deal would be 20 grand. It's like, man, if I get lucky, I'll get 2 and accomplish my goals. I got 7 contracts, everybody. I was blown away. And I only got 30 days because when my wife was flying home from Brazil, she had to test for COVID. She tested positive.
Yeah.
And that was during, a lot of the quarantine stuff. And we didn't know really the risks and what might happen. So I grabbed my passport and jumped on a plane to Brazil. In the last 10 days, I just was doing, I got 2 more contracts while I was there the last 10 days, two of the 7. And my father-in-law was hospitalized. We got stuck in Brazil for over a month after that. But it was an incredible experience, and I documented it day by day, had a film guy following me everywhere, which was a pain in my butt. I wanted just to work. And he's like, hold on, we got to get this angle. And I was like, I just want to work,
I was going to ask how you manage that. Like if it was, setting up your GoPro as you're having these conversations, but that's cool that you had a film guy there too.
Yeah. His job was to do his best to make me look good. I definitely gave him a run for his money, I believe. So But that's what I did. And I have the content for everyone to watch for free. I'm not asking for any money. I want to give it as a gift to everyone. If a lot of you listening, if you're entrepreneurs, you understand the power of holding money in real estate. And the reason I picked wholesaling to start, one of the main benefits is I wanted to be able to source deeply discounted deals. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur and I wanted to have different businesses and stuff, but I needed a place to hold my money. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you go to the MLS and multiple listing services and pay full price for a listing, it's going to be really tough to make a lot of money. It's like having a 401k or buying stocks at the retail value.
Yeah.
It's way better to buy a company and help build it a little bit and then take it public. Yeah. Right. That's when you make your money. And that's essentially what you're doing when you do wholesaling. You're sourcing deeply discounted properties for investors. So what I tell my students is you cherry pick the best and you sell the rest, right? Mm-hmm. I can very often increase my net worth. I mean, I can give you an example. I picked up 5 rentals this year and I increased my net worth over $700,000, right? Just by purchasing them. Yep. It's insane, right? Because I get so much equity on purchase. And then plus real estate, honestly, is the best asset to hold your wealth because of all the tax benefits. Yeah. Right. The ability to sell it and turn it into another investment without having to pay taxes on the gains. Like that's just one of the perks. There's so many. And so for me, when I was doing all my research on, how to hold my wealth, how to grow wealth, real estate was the key, but how to get into it was the barrier. And wholesaling was that sledgehammer that was going to break down all the walls.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have any plans to get involved in any other real estate deals or I guess verticals, or are you going to stick with wholesaling for right now?
I told my wife, I said, babe, these are my plans over the next 5 years. And I got these exits planned and then we're going to have all this free time. And she says, BS, you're never going to stop. And, I don't necessarily have immediate plans for any different types of real estate investing. One of my main focuses over the next 7 years is giving back.
Yeah.
My main
Yeah.
focus right now is my coaching business. My main focus is my YouTube channel, my podcast, and empowering other leaders and
Hmm.
finding other coaches and finding other people that I can empower and teach them how to be better coaches and to help them grow so that they can make a bigger impact, right?
Yeah.
Like my focus right now is not making more money. I have more than I ever imagined.
Hmm.
Um, I could have retired, essentially worked a couple hours a week and had my automated wholesaling business that generates more money and I can spend and drink pina coladas on the beach, I guess, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
I find fulfillment when I challenge myself. And more than anything, I find fulfillment when I help challenge others and help people reach their potential.
Hmm.
So that's my priority right now. What my priority will be in 2-3 years, well, that might change, right? I'm
Yeah.
not the same person I was 10 years ago. And
Yep.
that will, I assume, will continue to evolve.
I love it. Zach, you've got a great story, great, great work ethic, great. I mean, I just love your mindset. I love the way that you've approached everything. So this has been a lot of fun, and I think you've provided a lot of value, and I can't wait to be able to check out that YouTube video too with, how you did that in 40 days. Yeah, really, really impressive stuff. So if people wanted to learn more about you or what you're up to, what would be the best way to reach out and get in touch?
Yeah, to get access to that 40-day challenge, guys, if you guys want to watch it, go to DFD, stands for Driving for Dollars, DFDmastery.com/40 in 40. So that's the best place to catch that content. And then if you guys want to follow me, you can search Zach Boothe, Zack, last name's Boothe, Boothe. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and I think and my podcast, Driving for Dollars Mastery, is my podcast.
Love it. I love it. Zach, congratulations on everything. And I look forward to hearing from you again in the future. This has been a lot of fun. So
Well, thanks for
great
having
job.
me. I appreciate it. Thank you.